Hi guys, it's Tamra, the Judeo-Christian medium. It's no surprise, it just turned, well, it actually was a surprise, but it's no coincidence. It just turned Friday, April 1st, 2022, which we all know is April Fool's Day, which completely makes sense for this video, being that at various times the average people polled, it's been generally between 60 to up to like 74% of people believe that John F. Kennedy was taken out. So this is a perfect day to do this. And I wasn't planning on this whole outfit, like how it came together and filming with this outfit, which I'm looking now, it's so American, and I wasn't planning on it. I just recently bought this dress, and then this scarf went with it, and then I've had this sweater, so I put it together today, and then I was like, oh my God, it's so American. So, many of you on the spiritual path, please keep paying attention to all these coincidences. Spirit is always trying to talk to us, and they have from the beginning of time, from when we were first humans. They gave us the stars and they talked to us, and they've given us symbols and astrology, astronomy, and people have been born throughout the ages, seers and sages. Are you guys trying to, my team's with me, are you guys trying to write another song? You guys can use that to write a song if you want. But so yeah, throughout time, life path numbers, anything. Guys, all of it is valid. All of it is just a tool to help you. Take what you want, leave what doesn't feel right. You can go back to it. But it is all valid, and I know people like to argue over their thing, and that's fine. Yeah, Spirit wants me to move on. So, okay, let me first of all introduce the guest of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. JFK. Yay! Oh my gosh, he's he was a Gemini in his last lifetime. He's like, I'm still a Gemini. He is floating around like a bee. He's made himself into a bee. He's like, I'm a pest. He says he bothers a lot of people. But all of this makes sense to me because I've been talking to him and JFK Jr. and Nixon for a while now. So, yeah. Sorry, they're talking to me. I just want to introduce my spiritual team too. Oh, and so also JFK Jr. is here. He's like, don't forget about me. Yay, JFK Jr. And he's like a little bee following him. So it's interesting, guys. So let me try to explain this. They are actually the same energy. Of course, when they were here, they were two different people, but they were of the same energy, and their energy is Arcturians. Archangel Azrael. Now, I've been channeling Archangel Azrael in my last few channels because she represents he. It's a male, female archangel. The energy represents the last person that I channeled, Chesley Christ, and Muhammad Ali came through, and so that's why they were floating around as bees. This is how spirit communicates with me, so keep that in mind. If it seems like I'm rambling or all over the place, I am, but that's what spirit does. They're funny, they're fun, they use symbolism, they'll just talk to us in any way that we can see, and they like to have a good time. So let me introduce my spiritual team before we get started. My spiritual team is God, thank you, Jesus, and I'm going to give you a little more information. Jesus represents the Pleiadians, and then we have Archangel Michael, and Archangel Michael represents the tall whites, and some people call the tall whites the Galactic Federation, or I've heard the white hats. It's all valid, guys. And then we have Archangel Metatron, who represents the Arcturians, and I have to say tour, so it's not Tor. I've been saying Arcturians, and they corrected me. It's Turians with a U. And then we have, so Archangel Metatron, we have Archangel Eric Medhus. His mom, Elise, has a channel here on YouTube. Without Archangel Eric Medhus, I couldn't do this. He has recently passed. He was a saint. He became an archangel from the work that he did in his last lifetime and the work he does now. He helps mediums like myself connect to people who have passed, spirits who have passed, and he helps with this sort of work in particular. So I don't give him enough credit. I think I did when I first found out, and then, sorry Eric, I let it slide. And then we have Archangel Gabriel. And Archangel Gabriel is very close to my heart. He's part of my really tiny group. This is my larger group. Archangel Gabriel is very Pleiadian too. Also Pleiadian, well, Archangel Gabriel is a male, female archangel, and is a mixture of all of those three groups that I mentioned. And then we have all of the archangels, depending on what I need. I thank them because they've been helping me. We have Sandalphon, who is a messenger for the tall whites. And we have Raphael, who helps with health, and Uriel. I'll talk about Uriel at another time, and they want me to talk about these archangels at another time. Just to let you know, guys, the room is very crowded because JFK, John F. Kennedy, is a tall white and Arcturian, and he is part of the Galactic Federation that people talk about. So let's go back to his last lifetime. And yes, so I think I've already said JFK is Archangel Azrael. And so is JFK Jr. And so they were here at the same time. They're of the same soul. So that's going to lead us into twin flames. They are not twin flames, but they were both twin flames. Mr. John F. Kennedy was born May 29th, 1917 in Boston, and I'm from the Boston area. We have a lot in common, guys. And then he died November 22nd, 1963. He was taken out. And he was born already into a famous political family with his father running the show. So he was our 35th president in office from 1961 to 1963, and he beat Richard Nixon. We'll get into that later. Like I said, he was a tall white, which automatically makes him an intellectual. He was a twin flame, and his twin flame was Marilyn Monroe. And Jacqueline Kennedy, who I'm going to channel soon, I've already talked to her. She was a soulmate of JFK. And so she doesn't want you to worry about her. She's also a tall white, and her twin flame was Mr. Aristotle Onassis. And he's a tall white too. So also Mr. JFK, in another lifetime, he's had many lifetimes, but he was Saint Thomas Becket of Canterbury, England, and he was also assassinated in that lifetime. So guys, many of us, we follow the same patterns, and many starseeds, galactics, whatever you want to call us, we get taken out. It's, anyone who's a whistleblower, in the public eye, a religious figure, sometimes writers, mediums get taken out. It's part of the package. So, okay, so he was a Democrat. He went to Harvard. He was in the US Navy. Now guys, the Navy is of so much importance in the Galactic Federation, I'm finding out. So that's like a whole rabbit hole for another day, but keep that in mind if you're interested in this stuff. So he was a war hero in World War II. He wrote a book called Profiles in Courage. He was Catholic, Irish Catholic, with his ancestry being Irish, like myself. Guys, he had so many enemies. So I'm just writing as he was talking. Oh, I also do automatic writing, so that's why I have everything written down. That's a form of mediumship. So he was huge into the Peace Corps, huge into civil rights. The person who was accused of taking him out was Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald. Lee Harvey Oswald. I'm a little bit tired tonight, guys. It's very late, so forgive me. Things seem a little more challenging to me. So Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald was the person accused of taking him out. And guys, he did not. So Mr. Oswald is Pleiadian. He was approached by a 3-letter agency. And just to let you guys know that I might not leave this video up. I might end up taking it down. I might end up taking a few other videos down. Spirit has said that that might just happen. So keep that in mind. Do what you will with the information, but some of these videos might not stay up. So okay, let's get back to him. Lee Harvey Oswald. So he was approached by a 3-letter agency because he was already, and he had already been in his past an expat and a member of the KGB. Which at that time he was an ex-member when he was approached. And because of his experience, he was approached by an agency to join them. We'll just say that. And because he was approached to be part of that, he actually had a plan to leave. He wasn't feeling comfortable, we'll just say that. Let's go back to Mr. Kennedy. So his family moved to New York City for the same reason I moved to New York City. So we have that in common. I actually moved to New York City because I liked the diversity. And his father felt that, well, not just felt that, there was a lot of racism at that time in Boston. If you can believe it, guys, this is how things change. This is how racism changes. You know, the colors may change, the ethnicity may change, the religion may change, but it's the same package. It's done for power. So they didn't appreciate the racism against the Irish in Boston, so they moved their family to New York. So let's talk about Mr. Kennedy's. He's like, what about me? I'm sorry, you gave me all this information. He said that I'm being boring. I'm just reading off the thing. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of information. You gave me pages, so I'm trying to be professional. Okay, so yes, again, he was Irish, and we have some medical issues in common. We both he had herniated discs, and you know, it's from both of us we're into doing very physical things. He was hurt in the war and I was hurt at work, so we're both hurt at work, right? So, how Irish. So, this is a whole rabbit hole, guys. But he was diagnosed throughout his lifetime with many autoimmune illnesses, and they're telling me that there is this syndrome which I have, which he had, which hasn't really been fully recognized by doctors, and it is from a lot of people of Irish descent have celiac disease, which means we can't digest gluten, and they're saying it's not just gluten, like there's other carbohydrates we can't digest. They've given me the list, and my health has really improved. But it's this syndrome of having like celiac disease where you can't digest gluten. And I have an IgA deficiency, and they're saying he had that too. That's why he had like autoimmune problems, like Addison's disease, colitis, and then all this gastrointestinal issues. Sorry, I hope I'm not grossing you guys out. But in addition to that, like me, this syndrome, we have what is called an IgA deficiency, and I can say have because we choose at a certain level our group. And did I mention my group is also the Pleiadians, the Tall Whites, and the Arcturians, which I am all three, but heavy Pleiadian. They are also part of my spiritual team. When you're part of this group, and a particular part of this group, they told me that every time I've been here, I've had celiac disease, and it's just part of the package that many of us choose to have things because many people come here as doctors and they have to work on someone. It's a whole big, layered, complicated thing. But anyway, he has the same syndrome that I have. And I hope doctors can put this together. I mean, he was diagnosed with leukemia, had an appendectomy. So the basis of this syndrome is allergic to, like I said, gluten, allergic to sugar, which is different than diabetes. It turns into diabetes, but they're saying some people have an actual allergy to sugar. And so every lifetime, every decade, doctors learn more and more about these syndromes, about these issues. And so guys, this has been around forever. It's just that diets change and circumstances change, but for someone with our syndrome, I guess it would be autoimmune diseases, but it actually doesn't have a name yet. But so we're supposed to avoid many foods, but especially at all costs, avoid gluten. It completely destroys our small intestine, which basically you can't get any vitamins from food, so that's what causes all these problems. And I hope somebody is watching who is of Irish descent, or maybe feels like they need to get tested, please get tested for celiac if you think you have that. It causes a lot of problems, and if you do know that you have celiac, you may also have this IgA deficiency, which is basically, it means part of your immune system is missing, and an allergy to sugar. And you know, you'll notice right away. One thing you can do is, if you think, you know, you have maybe this syndrome, is just don't eat sugar for a month, or they're saying 40 days. That's what they, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, Lent, and that's why they chose 40 days for Lent. It's 40 days can tell you if you have an allergy to something or if you're addicted to something. It's just the perfect amount of time. So try it, guys. Give up sugar. It's a long life. Give up sugar for 40 days. See how you feel. Or give up gluten for 40 days. See how you feel. But there are a lot of people who don't have issues with sugar or gluten. So if that's you, enjoy. But he really wants to be an advocate for that, because a lot of people, guys, who have these issues, the issue with digesting carbohydrates, really, and an issue with their immune system, really don't make it past 50. So this is important. I didn't know we were gonna get into this area. He's like, oh yeah. It was a huge problem for him and for me. His life was like, the doctors told him was like a ticking time bomb. And then one of the reasons why I think I'm here with my whole spiritual team is I almost didn't pull through. So not to get morbid, but you know, this is a mediumship channel. They're like, okay, go move forward. Okay, another thing too is, if you get sick all the time, guys, get tested to see if you have an IgA deficiency, because that will help you figure out, like, you know, when like a vaccine comes up. This has like been a huge melodrama. You know, I was told to get the vaccine because I have that, but you know, it's up to you and how strong your immune system is. So that's another subject for another day. Okay, so Mr. JFK and I, we are connected now. We were connected on the other side, and we're both, he's tall, white, and Arcturian. I'm tall, white, Arcturian, Pleiadian. So we connect there. We are, for lack of better terms, part of this federation. I'll talk more about that at another time. But in our last lifetime, we both knew William Randolph Hearst. You can, and guys, especially if you're younger, look these things up. They're all connected. If you're into making connections, look up things that I'm talking about. Look up William Randolph Hearst and his family. What happened to his family? The buildings in New York, what his organization was about, his connection to the Kennedys. So interesting, guys. Back in December of 2011, okay, I had an encounter with the Men in Black, and I did a video on that. You can look that up in my playlist. I'm gonna probably redo it because Spirit has refreshed my memory and it's more vivid. And then they explained a lot to me why that happened to me, because at that time, guys, I was reading tarot, but that was pretty much it for my friends, you know? So why I say this is that there's this connection between all of us, and I saw the Men in Black it was right in front of the William Randolph Hearst building. So that's on 57th and 7th Ave. So, and we've been joking about the Men in Black because they need to update. It's, you know, time is so different on the other side. That's why I know many of you have heard about time lapses and so, you know, to them, it's still that era. They're showing up in those, you know, 60s suits and car and stuff. So anyway, moving on, JFK was all about unions and healthcare. He felt that it created a good public and good public health. And he, along with my spiritual team, he was a Democrat, but he says now he would be considered independent because he agrees with a lot of Republican points and a lot of Democratic points. So, like many people right now are kind of figuring out like where we stand. And my spiritual team likes to cherry pick. And I know a lot of people watching my channel think that I'm Republican and some people think I'm Democrat. So, okay. He wants to let you all know, just like Chesley Christ did, that he had a lot of support from his family, guys, which was very key to his success, and why Spirit wants to really make a point to tell people that is that many people now have not had family support, and they want to let you know they see you, they feel you. And there are many starseeds who have been born into families, and I promise, guys, I'm going to make a whole video on reptilians. So there are many starseeds who have who are Pleiadian, Arcturian, tall, white, or mix, and they have reptilian parents, and they have come into this lifetime in order to fix their family lineage, to heal the DNA, to fix the family curse, some people call it. And so JFK really feels for people who are on that path, because he said it was so hard to do what he did, and his whole family supported him, and his father was a famous politician and supported him. So he's really saying, guys, please, and Eric too is now saying, they see you, pray to them, and understand that the other side knows how much you've struggled, and all that you can ever do is just like take baby steps in the direction that you want to go in. They know if you have been suppressed, your talent has been suppressed, your voice, and so just know that they're aware, and they are constantly trying to help us. And as soon as you take little action steps towards what you want, they can really then jump in and intervene. So, let's get back to his presidency. He was a big proponent of the separation of church and state. That's actually how he won. Was he almost didn't win because he was Irish Catholic and they were using it against him, and he reminded everyone of the separation of church and state. So he really thinks that's important. He was actually at that time considered by many Protestant people to be a second-class citizen. So, cray. Yeah. So, sorry, their ideas and it's just so hard not to tell you guys everything. So, okay. He was the president from 1961 to 1963, and he delivered a famous address speech. So you all can look that up if you'd like. He would actually like you to, if you're watching this, because I mean, guys, there was a reason he was taken out, and it's bigger than just what happened here on Earth. It is spiritual warfare, and he says he was a medium. He was downloaded that information. So watch that speech. He's like, not just like to give him props, but because you'll feel it. You'll feel the mediumship in the speech. So a famous line is, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And guys, he still feels that way, as does Spirit. Spirit and Mr. JFK have told me that none of the political parties in the world will work if people take advantage. So there's the political party, the issues, and then there's the public. So all of them will fail if each part doesn't do its role. So if you have crooked politicians, the whole system will fail. But if you have crooked people, it doesn't matter how good the system is, the whole thing will collapse. So that's why people argue against socialism and Democrats. They say everyone's going to milk the system. That's true. If everyone decided to milk the system, that system would collapse. And as far as the Republicans, Ronald Reagan is here. So Ronald Reagan, he was an idealist, and he said that if you give people really, really low taxes, they can take that money and build corporations and build wealth and build business, and it will trickle down to everyone. He meant that. He felt that that people would be honest and do that, and if they were, that would work. So let's go back to Mr. JFK's speech. Ronnie said thank you. He's so polite. So in that speech, he said the common enemies of man, so this is throughout the ages, are tyranny, poverty, disease, and war. And he said that what he wanted to implement, the peace policies, and to counteract these issues might take more than his lifetime. And yeah, so going back to, it's right here. He said, just try. You know, whatever stage you're at, whatever you want to accomplish, all he told the people was that they were just going to start it that day. They were going to try and see how far that they could get. He's been helping me. I wrote that down. He also wanted to say, you know, at that time, and probably now still, if you add it all up, American troops have protected foreign lands way more than other countries. And he would just like to say that because America gets battered. I'm wearing my American outfit, but you know, America is not perfect, and you know, he'd like to talk about the current administration. Like, some of the things that they're doing are good, but you know, you all know, and many of you have realized from watching a lot of mediums, I'm sure, that you know, Mr. B has some issues. He's agreeing, but it doesn't mean everything that he's done is bad. They in particular did not want him to be in charge. There's a lot of checks and balances that made that happen, but that's a story for another day. But as far as the United States, it is something to be proud of. He wanted more opportunities for people, and he would like to really state this in a big way. So the biggest trick and deceit, one of the biggest tricks and deceits, because there's so many, and it's April Fool's. So he's like, yeah, suckers. He's funny. He's like, yeah, suckers, April Fools. But he said with this, the biggest trick, the dark, or the devil, whatever you want to call it, the dark reptilians play on people, is to make you think that being taken care of is winning. Guys, I mean, unless you're a child. When you're a child, yes, you want to be taken care of. But we'll get into, you know, masculine and feminine energy another time, but especially the masculine energy. The biggest trick is someone telling you, we'll take care of you, and you don't have to do anything, and that's winning. There's never been a time, that's never a good thing. You will never feel like you're winning. You might talk yourself into it, but he really, he said, if anything, wants to really he's very sad about that nowadays some people have been tricked into that, and they have been deceived, that they think that being taken care of is winning. And you know, this is not, he's obviously he was a huge proponent of social services, so it's not that. It's more of like, on a whole, just, you know, basically wanting to not do what you came here to do, which is the biggest deceit, because we were all here to do things, and to feel like doing nothing or doing actually things that are bad for us is winning. You know, things that aren't I guess for a better word, work or being useful or using our talents, or working for someone whose talents we believe in. Yeah, they are all sad about that. They have their heads down. They think that's one of the worst tricks played on humanity. Okay, so moving forward, he wants to talk a little bit about his marriage. He doesn't want to get too into it. He does feel bad. He did have some affairs, but he also, it's not an excuse. It's very complicated, but it's not right. But he's saying at least the people that he was with, it was meaningful. There was a connection. They're all laughing, they're saying The Bachelor. They like to laugh about modern stuff. But he had a connection, and he's not excusing it. He said this is like a red table talk now. They're so funny. It's just everything's so connected in my mind, what happened at the Oscars and all of this, because everything that goes on here is Spirit is working on it and is aware of it. Spirit's really been harping on masculine and feminine energy, and you can see we're all struggling with that. Anyway, so he would like to say, he said Marilyn Monroe was his twin flame, and I did say that in my mediumship read with Marilyn, the messages that she gave. But he would like to say that he had a great relationship with Jackie, his wife, Jacqueline Onassis. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, he's correcting me. They had a great relationship. They were both tall whites. And his relationships that he had with others was not a reflection of a bad relationship with Jackie at all. They were together for a long time, and they have a soul tie and great respect for each other. And like I said, her twin flame is Mr. Onassis. And he said that he had soul ties to each person that he was with. Not to make an excuse, and if he could do it all over again, he would have done it differently. So, yes. I told you already, JFK is from the Archangel Azrael, his soul, and tall white, of course, and Sandalphon, who is tall white. And when he came through with my biological father, who I have found out is a tall white. That's a story for another day. Okay, so it's so interesting. JFK is very close to Jesus, and when he was here, I wrote down June 10th, 1963. Part of the speech was called Strategy of Peace. And that's why Jesus and the disciples were here. That's what Jesus, his writings and the writings of the disciple, they were all mediums, and what they were the messages that they were receiving. They were trying to write a guidebook for that time for the Jewish people, which was just a strategy of peace. So this keeps coming back. We keep coming back to fix this, to create a strategy of peace. And why they're here so strongly now is because things have tilted too far in the opposite direction. So everything is like constantly being balanced out, and so that's why mediumship is getting so strong right now. And you know, they're like waking people like me up and saying like, you have to well, that's a whole story for another day, but like, anyway, things are getting out of balance, and that's why all of this is happening. Why they're here, why they're talking to me, why they're talking to other mediums, why people are seeing certain things in the sky and stuff that they've never seen before, or you know, haven't seen themselves, and all kinds of things are coming together. So what he also said in that speech are problems are man-made, and so they can be solved by man. It makes a lot of sense. And he said world peace does not require that each man loves his neighbor, only that they live together in mutual tolerance. So that's really important right now. He was a huge fan at that time of Israel, and he ended the embargo to Israel. He would have done a second term, and he's saying, like, we're kind of teasing you guys, we are going to talk about, you know, what happened to him, who took him out, and why. So moving on, Vietnam, he was planning to end the Vietnam War, and he was going to do it a lot sooner than Nixon did. And yeah, again, I wrote a strategy of world peace, yeah. He also helped I wrote down Berlin Wall. He was just discussed at that time the failures of communism at that time, and he said it's just never a good idea to have walls that keep you in. Now he's laughing because he said that would upset people. Again, if he was around now, he would be considered moderate, and he does believe that we need a wall, something to at where we're at right now with what's going on in Mexico and the border. So relax. He said it's very complicated, but he's in favor of just right at the moment, because of what's happening, for these, you know, strict regulations. He's a huge fan of, and he knows this is going to be very touchy. He thinks it's really important for people to keep their culture when they immigrate into the United States, but he does think it's very important and helpful to learn English, because you know, that's just going to help you with your goals. And that's always a good thing. So it can, you know, not learning English at this point could prevent you from reaching your goals, doing things that you want to do. And it's as simple as that. It's not racism. It's not, English is not I don't think it's been established that it's the official language of America even, but he's just saying, like, as far as helping you with your goals, it is a good idea to speak English, to learn English, and to learn it as properly as possible. There's no harm in doing that, and I'll just leave it at that, because with that, people obviously learning it at a younger age helps. But that's just, if you're going to live in this country, and actually, worldwide, English is the language of commerce. So it's just a good idea. And of course, he's saying it's a good idea for people to learn other languages too. And that's a whole rabbit hole. So he just said it can set you up to be a certain kind of employee, like a blue-collar employee, blue-collar labor. And he says that's actually wonderful labor. He was, he did physical labor too, loved it. I did physical labor, loved it. So he's saying, that's great if that's what you want to do, but you don't want to limit yourself. So he's saying when he was alive, he was a huge fan of St. Matthew, and he wants me to go back to our connection with William Randolph Hearst. So apparently I was connected to him, and so was John F. Kennedy, but how I didn't know John F. Kennedy during that lifetime, but apparently he was a big fan, and I'll get into this sometime in the future. I'm not feeling comfortable with it yet, but I was a writer, and he loved my writing, so there's that connection. Okay, so he wanted me to say that. That's why we have such a strong connection. So he helped strengthen policies in Israel, and he kept nuclear arms at bay, and he would have really done more to achieve that. That was like a big thing for him. He did a lot in those 3 years. He said, yeah, I was tired. He was really helping with the Arab League force, keeping peace there. He was anti-imperialist and anti-communist. Against racism, for Medicare, he's saying now, he doesn't like what's happened with the racism, and he was, right now, he would be into affordable healthcare and affordable college, with everybody doing their part to make it happen. Not free, but not crazy like it is now. So he said he loved Ireland. Let me just read here. He was and is in all of my spiritual team. They've told me this a few times. Like, what are they into? They're saying, guys, they're into excellence. Like, they feel that if people strive for excellence, that they would be a lot better off. And excellence is different than just competition. They're saying like competition isn't bad, but just we can see just doing things to be competitive, and that's like a very reptilian energy. They don't own like wanting to be competitive. That's a human experience. But instead of like competing with people, like they're saying a good tip is to strive for excellence. And so that's not about being power hungry, being perfect, always being like the boss. It's just about striving for your, as much as you can do, your own personal excellence in the circumstances that you've been given. And they've really talked to me about that, and talked to me about like what I find excellent, and you know, they've really helped me like decide for myself like what I find excellent and what I want, you know, as far as goods and services and things like that. He did, so here's like another democratic thing. He worked on the ecology in Cape Cod. So he and Spirit they wanted the Republican Party to win in this last election, but there are democratic policies that or interest, you know, excellence again, and with the ecology, with the environment, you know, that's just another thing. Strive for excellence and having a clean environment. And they're like, you don't have to worry. I'm not worried, but it's not about like the exact Mother Mary's here, who is also Mother Earth. It's an energy, so I'll explain that at another time. But you know, they're saying that it's not just about worrying about like the exact like hole in the ozone layer. It's about having a clean environment. Like it just makes sense. Like you know, we have we clean our homes, we brush our teeth. Of course we want a clean environment. It's just, it's simple, and it's common sense, guys. Like you want clean water, you want clean air. And he's also saying that it's been exaggerated the other way. Like there are companies that follow good procedures, and you know, not all companies need to be like villainized and raked over the coals. It's a balancing act. So moving on, yeah, back to the excellence thing. We've tipped the scales a little bit in, they're saying like our appearance and things like, you know, the extreme minimalism, and you know, if that suits you, fine. I know I'm a bit of a minimalist, especially I have ADHD. It really helps with that. But they're saying be careful, guys. Don't fall into the trap of someone telling you, anyone in power telling you that having nothing and living in t-shirts and sweatpants is the answer, because that's not the destiny of everybody. If that is, if you're young and you know, maybe you live in a beach town and you're feeling really good, you're a surfer, you know, you want to wear sweatpants. You guys see me, I wear a lot of sweatshirts. but they're just saying, please be aware of traps. And they're saying that the guy from Star Wars, the Admiral, like, it's a trap. You know, Star Wars was downloaded. It was written like it's true. So it was just written like, you guys get it. But yeah, don't fall into, they're saying, you know, society can fall into these traps. And some people are. He was really big on stopping executions, and this is very spiritual, guys. The best way they described it is killing or even executions. It is, you know, as far as spiritual warfare goes, it's a bonus for the dark side. It's a bonus, like, because it gives, when you do something like that to a negative spirit, it actually increases the negative spirit's power. And the negative spirit can decide to hang out in the fourth dimension, haunting people, taunting people, and haunting the mentally ill, homes, areas, dark areas. So anything dark will attract them. And they especially prey on substance users. And you know, this, I'm sure you've heard this, that's why we call alcohol spirits. Now, I'm not getting prudish. Spirit is not saying like to never have a drink. It's not that. But you just have to be careful, because the more substances you do, the more you are able to connect with the fourth dimension. Now, many starseeds have done big substances and they connect to their spirit guides, but they're saying it's not really a good idea, because you also, you know, you connect with bad spirits too, or dark energy too, and especially if you're a starseed, dark energy is always preying on you to, you know, come to our team. We'll talk about that, you know, in detail at another time. But it basically gives sort of that dark reptilian energy more power. So every sort of dark deed, but especially an execution, and I know that's hard. It's really hard, because they're saying definitely don't, you know, they're saying what's going on now is the other extreme of just letting criminals loose, but executing spiritually, I think you guys understand. Oh, I'm getting tired. Okay. He was working on civil rights. He had a plan. And if he, first of all, he was working on all of these issues during that presidency. Secondly, he would have served another term. And they were combating the negative reptilian spirit, which is in all of that negative energy of like all of the things we pointed out in racism. As far as BLM is concerned, he says it's a very good concept, and he agrees with the concept, but he says right now it is not a pure organization. So make sure that they're not taking advantage of their, you know, this movement. He was involved, or Equal Pay Act of 1963, so that was something he enacted. So he was into that. And again, this goes back to them wanting everyone just to do what they're good at, what is suited for them. Unfortunately, this equality, they said, has taken a negative turn, and that's where you'll see, like, you know, older women doing incredibly taxing labor, and that was not what he intended. And, you know, some people just working, men and women working in jobs not suited for them because, you know, they're like, we're equal, you know. Let me go. Yeah, and he was very, very excited about having us go to the moon. Now that came after him. So let's move on to his assassination, guys. So this was November 22nd, 1963. He was only 46 years old. This is so interesting. He went to Dallas, guys, to smooth out a rift between liberals and conservatives down in Dallas, and look what happened. So, as like Lee Harvey Oswald, you have a hard name. He's like, I know, it was a hard life. He's laughing, but he says that he was, that's a funny word. At that time, he said he was a patsy. So, meaning like it would be called like a tool now, like, you know, like he was an outsider. So that was taken advantage of. And then so let me just try to say this in the best way, okay? So let me move on from here and we'll talk about Mr. Nixon. So I don't really know this, but I don't know if other people have said these exact words, but they're telling me that it was Nixon. So Mr. Richard Nixon, he was a reptilian, which is not all bad. I'm going to do a video on reptilians, but he was of the darker sort. Not everything he did was bad. A lot of things that he did in his life and his presidency were good, helpful, useful. But he became a narcissist early in life. So what happened, which has happened to Mr. B too. I talked about him. I think you all know who that is. This is a really tough thing, and especially being reptilian. Reptilians really need to be part of a group. He was like sort of weird and poor in a wealthy area, and that's very traumatizing. He was like a Quaker. They didn't fit into their area. You know, lots of early trauma. And he did find a pretty healthy coping mechanism at that time. He was a really good debater in high school. So so this will take us to his debate with JFK. Now, maybe he's right, but he's not he's not really taking into account subject matter and the cause, but he felt that his debate with JFK, that he had won the debate, and maybe he did technically, but that like stuck in his craw, and he could not get over that. He actually, the polls said that he won for people who just heard the speech, like on the radio. So that made him think that he did better. But people who saw the speech thought that Kennedy did better. So he couldn't get over that, guys. And then, of course, he lost the election. He lost another election, like shortly after that. Something else he had run for. And then all I can say, guys, is that many people wanted to take out JFK, but Nixon was the person to organize it and see it through. So, and he felt very justified. Now, we've talked about excellence this whole time and doing what you're meant to do. What was Nixon meant to do? Like I said, guys, not everything reptilian is bad. Nixon did very well in the military, and funny, the Navy. So the Navy is very galactic, very Pleiadian, very tall white. So what he was meant to do was not to be president. He was meant to be a commander, to stay a commander in the Navy and follow orders of the president who was at that time Arcturian and tall white. Does that make sense? So, JFK being an archangel and being galactic, and having been religious figures throughout the ages, his take on being the president is going to be different than Nixon's. And actually Nixon did end up following JFK's, what he had laid out. It was already laid out for him. There was no other direction that he can go, and it just made sense. He wasn't like crazy over everything. So he actually did end up taking orders from Kennedy, which is very ironic. And they're just kind of like this, making this all make sense right now. But what he was supposed to do was be a commander. Reptilians, that was just a great position for him, for his intelligence, for his just his skill set, was to stay as a commander in the Navy or the Marines, like whatever he wanted to do. But and that's part of the Star Wars, if you want to call it that, from the movie, the Galactic Wars, the spiritual warfare. That is what's going on right now. It's that it's like this is an example, a small microcosm, micro example of like what's in the macro. It's people don't want to do what, not everyone, but comes up like this is perfect. Like Nixon was reptilian. He had a certain skill set and he didn't want to do that. So we're seeing that worldwide. We're seeing reptilians want to be in charge, but they're wanting to be in charge of things that, like, people. And if we go back in time, we had like royal advisors. They were like 20%, 20% of the population. Like, that's what this is. And not to be highfalutin, it's just people's, that's what their destiny is. That's what they're meant to do. So, he still could have been in charge. He still could be a commander in the military, but he wanted to be president. So that's what's happening in all levels of society now, is many good and bad reptilians want to be in charge, and many starseeds are going into professions where they're not, where it's not a good fit for them either. And so what their goals are, in talking through people like me, is to get this point across that, doing what you're best at and trying to be excellent at that and sort of staying in your lane. It's not just about like, they're laughing. They're like, it's not just about a meme or like a, like be your best self and things like that. It's serious, guys. Like it's world changing. And the ill effects, the ramifications of not doing that is like, what's the big deal of having like, reptilians in charge? Well, the thing is that many reptilians actually don't want that responsibility once they're given it. Like, it's just not their deal, and I'll get into that at another time. But if you have too many people in the wrong positions that they're not meant for, where they're more meant to be like a follower, like they're saying Mr. B, he's actually, not everything he's doing is wrong. They said a broken clock is right twice a day. But really, like, following the group, what the group wants to do, groupthink, it's not always going to be wrong. A lot of times it's going to be good for the group, but ultimately it's not the best. Ultimately, you need someone who, like JFK, who was incredibly passionate about his policies, and like it was his whole being. It wasn't just like a job or a next level. All right, so let's get to Mr. JFK Jr. and what happened with him. He's like, you saved no time for me. I'm sorry. So Mr. JFK Jr. was born November 25th, 1960, and he passed July 16th, 1999 in an airplane accident. So we'll talk about that. So he was an American lawyer, a journalist, magazine publisher. He published a really fun, big, glossy, nice magazine, political magazine called George in 1999. He was only 3 when his father was taken out. He passed at 38. Like I said, many galactic people do not live to see 50, unfortunately. He was a tall white, which many of you think of as the white hats. He was Arcturian, which gave him sort of that flair, like he being like really into fashion and a good actor. Metatron's like, hey, Metatron's in charge of the Arcturians. he grew up in New York, he said, which was cool. He feels bad about what's happening now. And he thinks like part of his life was really funny, where when his mom remarried Aristotle Onassis and they lived on the island of Scorpios, he said it sounds like a soap opera. But he's appreciative of all of that. He has a really good sense of humor, as does JFK and all of them. When he was younger, he was very hands-on in Guatemala, so they're talking again about manual labor. He liked that. He also said he was a big fan of things I had written in other lifetimes, books and such, so thank you. He's really wanting to. I'm embarrassed, guys. So anyway, he was like a wrangler in Wyoming. He loved horses. So if you feel like you might be, we'll get into this another time, Arcturian and tall white mix. You just might be really good with animals. Pleiadian too. So he liked to work on the same issues his dad did. They're from the same, they're both the spirit of Archangel Azrael, so this makes a lot of sense, as was Muhammad Ali, Marilyn Monroe, Chesley, Christ, amongst others. I'll name it another time, or maybe I have in the past. Interestingly though, JFK Jr. is saying he had ADHD, and he failed it's hard for ADHD people to study. I have it. This is hard for me to do, like to write things down and be like scholastic about it. He failed the bar 2 times. He's like, no one will let him live that down. And he said he was partying a lot. That makes sense with the ADHD thing. So, what did I write? So what other people call the Federation is this group. It's a Federation for Peace on Earth. I've already mentioned this. He also had similar experiences to his father. His father saved people in a boat in the military, and he did that too. His mom, Jacqueline Kennedy, she was also psychic, and she had a vision of him dying in an airplane crash, so that was hard for her. He was a very good actor. He got that from his Arcturian influence. He got very good reviews. They called him very earnest. He played himself on Murphy Brown. So his magazine, George, it's a very tall white thing. The fashion part of it was Arcturian. He got to meet Mother Teresa in New Delhi. And with that, he reconnected with his with his spiritual team. He actually said he felt that he found God through her. And Mother Teresa, Mother Mary, and Mother Earth are the same spirit. So of course, him being a starseed and being in her presence, that was just a explosion of light, they're calling it. And then, so Kennedy's business partner, Berman, was a narcissist, and this happens to a lot of starseeds. this dark reptilian narcissist basically tried to ruin his magazine amongst other reptilians. You guys getting the pattern here? The pattern goes back to the beginning of time with, not the beginning of time, but over time. The reptilians trying to block things that, not staying in their lane, and trying to block talents of starseeds. So, but not all reptilians do that. A lot of like not dark reptilians work for starseeds, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But there was a lot of hate and jealousy. But he said it was also time to move on from that magazine, and he invoked his father's address speech in 1998, and let's see, trying to figure out when to get into like how he was taken out. I'll do that a little bit later. We're gonna get into this is interesting, guys. JFK Jr.'s twin flame was Madonna. Now they dated briefly, and I know, guys, he was married to Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and but his twin flame was Madonna. And actually, they were going to reunite later in life and marry and have children. So he actually wants to stand up for Madonna. He feels very badly. He said they were like a very typical Gen X couple in the 90s. And he's winking at me because I had a relationship where it was a little like tumultuous, and he said there's a reason for that. You know, Gen X was we are a generation. Please pass that along. We get left out of all the memes, but so all the TikTok videos, they just skip us. So, you know, our generation, he said that we were letting out emotions that were bottled up from other generations. And he says that's no excuse, but he and Madonna had some big fights, and he feels bad about that. But he loved her a lot. And he said many Gen X people went through sort of that stage in the 90s. And he said many have moved on from that and are finding peace, and it's great. He was making this joke where he thinks it's so funny that she called herself the material girl, because he said she always in her life paid for herself and paid for others. So he wants to give her props for that. Yeah, like I said, they would have reconnected. And Madonna, he's saying, is Arcturian, Pleiadian, and a tall white. And he said she's doing great. And he's laughing. He says she pretends to be crazy, and he's like laughing so hard. He's laughing right now. He says he loves it. But even their zodiac signs were compatible. She was a Leo and he's a Sagittarius. So there's a lot of interesting connections too. He said, you know, his ashes were on a Navy ship. Yeah, he said Muhammad Ali is in the same soul tribe. I think I've already mentioned that. Yeah, okay. So we're going to, I didn't actually write this down, but JFK Jr.'s passing. So this is going to be hard for me to say, and this is maybe one of the reasons why this video I might get taken down. I might take it down. May not be, let me just say I may not be able to keep this up. But it was not an accident. JFK with his wife and her sister, they were taken out. It was meant, you know, just for him, but they were just innocent victims. But so he was taken out by a couple who he thought were friends, a political couple, and that's all I can say. Everybody knew he was going to run for president, and most assumed that he was going to win. And this couple did not want that to happen. And again, he thought that they were his friends, and they weren't. And that's all I can say. That's more than I should say. Oh, so let me just look here. They all have their heads down. It's very upsetting, but the soul of JFK and JFK Jr. will be coming back, and they will be getting the job done. They are going to come back and do it all over again. But they're hoping to live longer than they did last time. And as you all know, we have free will. So spirit can help us only so much. And you know, I try to give predictions. They tell me what is the probable thing of happening based on people's intentions. And you know, all their charts and graphs and things, but we have free will, and please keep that in mind. Please watch your safety, watch your back, be careful, as you could be the nicest person and very spiritual, very helpful, but doing your thing, being a whistleblower or getting in someone else's way is a good way to get taken out. So spirit can try, they can give you messages, they can give you warnings, they can give you the heebie-jeebies about someone, and the more you hone your gifts, the stronger the messages could be. But throughout the ages, we've seen many starseeds and spiritual people getting taken out, and it's unfortunate. They try to help us, they try to intervene, but we have free will. The dark energy that would want to do that, would want to take out, say, a starseed that's in their way, or a whistleblower. They have assistance too, from their team. So that's where you'll see, like, you know, this thing that people talk about. I don't really want to get too into it, but sort of making a deal with the dark side. It is a thing, and it does give people power and strength and intuition for what it is that they want to do. And oftentimes, starseeds just keep getting battered because it's an energy. It's not just like, you know, oh, this one person wants to take you out because you're going for the job they want. You know, that sort of negative, dark force energy that lives in the fourth dimension, it's constantly preying on people. So it could be as simple as, you know, you have someone who's on a very strong substance, and a Pleiadian walks down the street, and, you know, a very strong substance is going to connect them to the other side. And they've told me that not only could someone who's really connected to the other side, but in a dark way, they could actually see your light. So if you are, they could see that you're a starseed, but they could actually sometimes see who you were, like in another time, because they are that far gone. And there are many people walking down the streets, guys, that are that far gone, they have done so many strong substances that, you know, they're on their way out. And they could just receive a message like, you know, get that person. And this is something that's not really talked about, but they're saying it's becoming very common that that's a way to take out starseeds. So starseeds have a target on their back. So be savvy in what it is that you do. A lot of starseeds aren't necessarily savvy in those areas. If you just want to take a look at the disciples, they didn't stick around for a long time. They're saying a lot of them in their lifetimes would have been a little more savvy in certain areas, but then also a lot have come here balls to the wall and like just want to fulfill their mission. And if they get taken out, they get taken out. Sometimes you just can't prevent that from happening. So I'm actually, the diet that Jesus has put me on for my conditions, I'm going to talk about that more and how it relates to like the kosher diet, and why that diet was put in place. So yeah, we'll talk about that at another time. Just wrote some notes here. Just want to make sure that I don't miss anything. JFK was talking about what it is to be a truther and how that's like a huge deal now. Like it's seen as something sort of extreme. And he's like, well, it's a truther. And he was laughing. He's like, if you're not a truther, then you're a liar. He's like, it's really not a big deal. He thinks that's really funny. Yes, so just we'll end it with this. He was really into rights and responsibilities. Was it Yoda? Said with great power comes great responsibility. And So we'll just end it with that. With great power comes great responsibility, and you've got to have the caring behind it too. Not everybody has that, and not everybody needs to have that. But we just have to have that in our leaders, guys, our world leaders, our religious leaders, our doctors, our lawyers, our law, our teachers. They need to be responsible, they need to care. It's just part of the package. So let me see if they want to say anything else. Like always, they're saying like, good job, thanks guys. They're showing me kind of like around in a circle, like sort of dressed like how you would think the disciples dress, kind of like monks. They're laughing, they're like, but we like nice clothes and be nice to the fashion designers, it's a talent. They're giving me, they said tonight was a lot about Libra energy, about balancing everything out. With great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. So when we go to elect our leaders, guys, look for passion. Use your intuition. It's hard. It's really hard. You know, people know how to play the game and they know how to act. They all have these like lights, like around a fire, chanting for peace, peace and prosperity, peace and prosperity. You guys are like protesters. They said no. It's a nice soft energy. Peace and prosperity. Peace and prosperity, guys. I think that's it for this reading, and I will come on soon. I have a whole list of people to do.